All right, had a little technical difficulty there. This is 365 Days Towards Racial Change. My name is Tom Nyback, day 230, moving right along here, coming up to the home stretch in a little bit. We're here talking about racial issues in America, um, ooh, just dissecting all its aspects historically toward black people exclusively. Other groups can make their own videos and do their own interest and whatnot. We're interested in black folks, black skin, that which the elephant in the room in America that is always apparent, the skin color. America has made it um, this dynamic of power and control along those lines. And of course, there's other uh, issues, sexuality, age. You can find a lot. Maybe in the future I'll do some of that. But this year is devoted to the argument for black people, making black lives better, and understanding why it's not for the majority of black folks. Got plenty of outliers, entertainers, sports people, and such. But you'll find if you go across the nation that the general experience for black folks is, privation, lack, struggle. Uh, but the majority of white folks have, um, they're conditioned, they're oriented within the system in a very favorable way. And we black folks have a chance to make some changes because other ethnicities have come here and done that. They've come here, done that in a shorter amount of time than black people have been in America. We came with the white folks. We were the labor force uh, that built the nation, that made a lot of money into perpetuity for white families, white businesses in the land, and whatnot. And it's interesting, immigrants come here. Black people in the land are not immigrants. We were born here. We were here hundreds of years before this almost recent activity for other ethnicities. Yet they came and they dominate, grow, excel, above and beyond black folks. So that's some of the stuff we're working on. I'm concerned about the white mind, or we continually come back. We got a couple mantras here. I'm sorry, the black mind. Concerned about the black mind. How does the black mind figure, absorb, you know, assess its environment? That this is a situation created by whites, for whites, administered by whites. Is the black mind at home in such an environment where those issues, where that is the nature of existing in America? So we tease some of that out. Conversely, the white mind, having, there's no one alive today, of course, who owned a black slave, but you find white families, some individuals, still reaping the benefits of what their slave master, owner, forefathers, uh, you know, reaped from that free black labor. And this when we talk about race, it brings up uncomfortability on all sides. Everybody has issues with it because it was so American slavery was so brutal and focused, um, and unfair. It's a lot of uncomfortability around it. It's the elephant in the nation, but we gotta navigate it. We gotta assess it. We've got to, I think, get away from denial. We don't want to bury our heads in the ground, but everybody needs to take, live on a piece of that. That's what the nation is built on. We look at historical facts, um, from how the Constitution was created. We just talked about, we're talking about civil rights. So 1865, 1866 now become prominent dates, years, when we talk about race in America. So it's conversation right at the heart of how this nation works and flows. It's the infrastructure of the American way. So it's okay to talk about it. Uh, I think all sides need to just work harder to make a better experience for Black people exclusively and first in America. I'm also concerned about um, Black uh, financial literacy. You know, more than counting dollars, holding cash. Do you understand how dangerous it is to have cash? It's okay, you have a little bit around so you can move in society, because in general that's how some things work, but we're getting even more electronic nowadays, and understanding what cash is. You know, it's I played a lot of Monopoly growing up, and believe it or not, um, I read a book called The Creature from Jekyll Island, and that Monopoly money I played with as a child is no different from these greenbacks and green federal notes I have in my wallet. I got enough where I can maneuver in a pinch, but they to be financially literate is to understand that those are a detriment, potential detriment to uh, my financial health, economic health in America. And that's for everybody, Black, white, everybody in between. I'm inspired to do this work by a man named Dr. Claude Anderson. He articulates these subjects much better than I did. I just do summaries, and I'm free forming some videos, just kind of growing in my understanding of America, because nobody taught me this stuff. I don't even know this man, but his works have made a great impact on my life. I want you to get these books. He's got plenty of stuff, and he's easy to find on YouTube, so you can get a taste of what his message is about. A Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask, Black Labor, White Wealth, Search for Power and Economic Justice, and Dr. Anderson's National Plan to Empower Black America, PowerNomics. You can find Dr. Anderson at PowerNomics.com. If you have the text, we're going to finish up. We just did a three-part series on an economic action plan and looking at the original intent of the civil rights, not the movement of the 60s. We're going back to the civil rights initiatives talked about 1865, 1866. Behind me, you see the hashtag #US2Simple. You find Black women supporting one another, talking in their issues. Check out Black Enough, BLAGGENUF, kind of a Black Facebook experience. If you can't find your voice or flavor here on the World Wide Web, go do what I did, start your own little piece. It's fun. Challenge yourself. A year. I'm not done yet, so we're not going to count our chickens before the hatch, but I'm feeling very good about the momentum here. You can also get on my private email list. It's easy to get off and on it. Just emails, not a big deal, and I don't share your information. Alrighty, and finally, we have story time. I'm going to get back to this in a little bit. I got a lot of notes that I took, and we had a big, long, extended time when I was on vacation in Uncle Tom's Cabin. I promised to get back to story time because the year is starting to wind on. I'm going to start school. I'm going to finish my degree for philosophy and be a smarter person, I hope. All right, part three, economic action plan. Original intent of civil rights, right? Civil rights. I'm glad we're doing this piece because we can get rid of the civil rights movement, kind of culminating with a lot of assassinations, bloodshed. America was, it was America on display, the 60s, right? 50s and 60s, right? We saw hoses, police attack dogs, the beatings, imprisonments, lynchings, burning of lives, the public exposure of white extremism, supremacy, and racism, and all that. Well, that was the, that's the tip of the iceberg. That's the culmination. That's the dovetailing of a lot of organizations and energies there in the 50s and 60s coming together. But we want to back up 80, 90 years before that. Well, and even further, we can find some civil rights interest and rhetoric, even as far back as 1787, which is incredible for me because I hated history in school. Finding out how important it is, it's becoming. But we're talking more about out of here, PowerNomics, more 1865, 1866, around both 13th and 14th Amendment issues. I believe. I'm not an expert. I'm not trying to be, but I'm just giving us the some framework around that. And what we have is you have on the floor civil rights interests and concerns where the issue was protection for all people and stuff like that. Initially vetoed in 1865 by the then president. I keep forgetting to get the name. But do your Wikipedia study. 1865 Civil Rights Acts, 1866 Civil Rights Act, and vetoed in 1866, but the House overturned the veto, and we can go forward with some civil rights interest. Now, like anything, like the conversation is around treating black folks better primarily, yet that's the conversation on the floor of Congress. But as the document became public, immigrants, other language was inserted, and black folks, the interest in black folks is diluted. Black folks pushed to the side again, and other groups hurry and crowd in to get benefits. Same way as 1787. You look at James Madison's notes, a lot of exclusive language about black folks, but you don't find Negro, black at all in the Constitution. You gotta wait till you get to the 13th and 14th Amendment, where you find slavery, and even then, the 13th Amendment concerns slaves explicitly. The 14th Amendment is about another aspect of servitude, things like that. But we're going to finish up today. I'm going to pound you. Actually, tomorrow we're going to even talk about it more. But it's important to get the argument clear and straight in our heads about this original intent of civil rights and how it diverts away from black interest, making life better for blacks. It starts out, and this is sad because this is white men struggling with the issue, and it's still a problem. A black man dare not, right? President Obama could not publicly um, endorse a black agenda because it's just not politically correct. You're going to lose all your power. So black men don't, or black men or women don't have an exclusive black message as they are part of that powerful political landscape. In part, the reason in part is because not even white men could get away with inserting a heavy message in the nation's public documents concerning um, concerning black folks, Negroes, slaves, and all that. Um, you'll find if you read the notes or the description for the video, I'm pretty sure I put in there this issue with the black people being this silent participant. That it's like, do you hate driving in the car? I hate being times when I've driven and I've got two people over here and they're discussing where I'm going to take the car and how they're going to benefit from using me as a resource. And I'm the dumbass that lets the conversation go on. But it's the same way with black folks here in America, because we sit back, and it's a conditioned, I think, response because it goes all the way back to the creation of this nation. You know, Extended conversations about black people, slaves, Negroes, on and on in America, and how we're going to handle them, whether they should vote, and all this stuff. And there's these white men on the floor talking about this. You ask a woman about how she feels about all these white men talking about abortion and creating laws and all this stuff. You probably get the same response, the same reaction. The women are not being represented, and white men who have no clue about carrying um, embryos, being impregnated, or making uh, vast decisions about the lives of women. So black people. So you'll see that in the description. This idea, these white men sitting around talking about what's so good for black folks. So civil rights, a lot of good intentions there. So we can find in 1787 notes and 1865, 1866 procedures as far as the Civil Rights Act. But still, when it comes to implementation, when we try to become pragmatic with these concerns and interests, then suddenly there's diversion, there's dilution, there's talk of including other groups in the equation, and it all appears on the surface to be good for everyone. That's the point. Everyone's already got theirs. We got to be focused on black people getting their space consistently over time, holding on to it, growing, being better. And it's just not happening in um, in the land, of the free, home of the brave. Again, black people can't even speak out. Look what happened to Colin Kaepernick, great quarterback, San Francisco 49ers. When you discuss or voice or demonstrate issues with the white system, you're going to get some pushback. And it's a very dangerous, precarious position to be in. I'm kind of a nobody, so I'm not a big target on the radar, so I'm cool. um, but whether it's then, whether it's the 60s, whether we get past benign neglect of 1969 into the 70s, whether it's now with diversion, inclusion, people of color, immigrants, as though black people are part of this big community. But we're always this kind of Cinderella stepchild, outcast, marginalized group in the landscape. You know, conditioned not to really have our hat in our hand. You know, I don't want to go. We talked previously in the year about some of our issues, some of my issues and opinions about that. Try to stay on task, on point. So Dr. Anderson gave us 6 points as we just blew through them yesterday. Today, let's see if we can delve a little deeper. Even before the 6 points, let's talk about black leadership again and how we're going to need black leadership in the higher echelons of power, wherever they are at, to really get on board with this black concerns, black betterment, and things like that. Reversing the economic, and social destruction perpetrated against black folks here in America. So that's one thing. Black leadership really needs to happen. We got black leaders out there. Um, Al Sharpton, Farrakhan, and we got groups doing stuff. It's too bad we don't have a united paradigm that the groups, and this is my ignorance, my lack of research, that we have plenty of black groups, organizations, caucuses, and whatnot, but I'm just not aware of all of them working together as a unit, collectively. Just the sheer size, you're going to have differences of opinions and whatnot, but if we could just be one nation, so to speak, that would help us a lot. And black leadership could coalesce, focus, and that would be a great start. We will talk about black leadership, I'm sure, again, before the year's out. But Dr. Anderson, he's got 6 points. The first point is that civil rights diverted the economic issue toward social and political goals, which is your inclusion and your diversity arguments, so to speak. And that's the issue. What was going on in America is the problem of, you're talking about depravity, poverty for black folks in America. And that's the motivation behind any desire of change. And I'd settle for the economic betterment change versus making me part of, because money talks and money's powerful in America. Trust me, if I'm doing well, the organizations and power will reach out to me for my take to be included and whatnot. But as long as I'm struggling economically, that's going to be a problem. Second, it made blacks consumers. I talk about looking around your room, lifting up your lamp, TVs, refrigerators, fans, probably made in China, right? It's presently we're talking about trade wars, the market's going on like this. But I work in logistics. I handle moving stuff. I'm kind of a mail person, mail carrier. I can't tell you how many Chinese boxes are. I move heavy stuff, furniture, all night long. Civil rights, we focused on income equality rather than securing and gathering wealth. Um, we just, how many dollars an hour we make and what we have a right to, and minimum wages, and all these things. It's a poor level of conditioning for black folks. We need to be wealth gatherers, creators, securers of wealth in America. We were conditioned to be job seekers, and this is from public education on up. Black folks don't have a big, they're not big recipients of private education, where you're going to find uh, more opportunities to become a job creator, entrepreneur, and things like that. So we are conditioned right from public school to be to go find a job, and the politicians play right into this as well. They preach job creation and how many more jobs, and the person conditioned with that job mind is salivating. And the pictures, they're going to be a part of that. Oh, a better job is on the way. Well, I got to tell you, universe, I wasn't created or born to work my fingers to the bone, develop tendonitis, into old age, uh, to be someone's employee. That's not the goal of my life. Um, we're conditioned for altruism. Black folks are so soulful, prayerful, spiritual, religious, and things like that. We see it with Uncle Tom in Uncle Tom's Cabin. He's right there helping out and all this stuff, but in bondage the whole time. And it wouldn't be so bad if we were reciprocated more. You know, um, I give money to some of the televangelists and things like that, and got a little irritated today because I like these guys and I trust the money in the ministry and things like that, but they send me stuff looking for money, more money, want to sell me more stuff and all. It's like, nice if you sent me a gift once in a while, or sent me a handwritten note, you know, uh, developing a relationship with me personally. That's asking a lot. These are guys are mega churches, known worldwide and stuff. So I know it's pie in the sky, but let's get some reciprocation for this altruism, for this um, outpouring of our spirit. We've given black people, have given plenty in the world, and why are we not being recognized, compensated, shown a little more appreciation for our altruism? And civil rights, finally, his sixth point is that it um, it blinded us to the policies that keep us impoverished guests of the nation, as how Dr. Anderson puts it. And you look at things like Jim Crow, semi-slavery, massive incarceration. And, you've got some policies in America. They're finally starting to break and change. Vance Jones from CNN he's close to the president. You know, our president's got a lot of issues, but at least Vance Jones is representing and just chinking at that marble edifice about incarceration and some other issues in America. But these are the policies that distract us away from economic gain, economic growth, stability, privilege, things like that, things we've got to get better with. So that's going to be our little wrap. Economic action step number 3. You know, I just get out my little parachute and I just fall into a place on the book, and that's where it was for the past 3 days. I'm going to talk a little bit about more of the power issue, not economics, but tomorrow is going to be power for Black people. I'm Tomlins Nyback. Thanks for hanging out. Day 230 out of the way. 365 days towards racial change. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.